So today I'm going to talk about the Arudha Lagna and how it impacts us in our day-to-day life, right? So as we all know, the Lagna itself is kind of our life path. I would say it's our recurrent themes that we would experience, and in all honesty, it is like the most static thing that you're gonna see when it comes to your life, right? Recurring events and how people perceive you, and even sort of like the story of your life, if you will, in a way, can be seen through the Lagna, right? But today I kind of want to talk about the Arudha Lagna to kind of give you an insight on how that will impact your life, because the Arudha Lagna is basically what the outside the outside world is going to think of us. And if we have a particular Lagna or ascendant, it could, on first glance, someone might not see those energies right off the bat. It might be that a person might need to get to know you a little bit to really know what type of energies you have and what type of person you are. But with the Arudha Lagna, there is a certain energy, or you can guess like a vibe that a person would give off, and you will say, "Hey, this is the energy that I'm getting on first impression of this person," right? So when we are talking about all of the different signs, it really is a very basic and rudimentary way to look at it. Because if supposing we have like a Scorpio, for example, these people might come across as more intense than they actually could be. Now, could they be as intense as they seem? They definitely could. And then that depends on the rest of the chart. But if supposing you find yourself in a situation where people assume you to be a certain way, but then when they get to know you, you're completely different than that, it usually is something to do with the Sarula Lagna, right? And it being the image that is presented out in the world for you, it is a powerful and important placement that, I feel like nowadays everyone has some idea of what this is. But even in a lot of the predictions and things like that, it might be missed, because it really there's so many components that are going on at the same time, right? And there's also the house placements and how each house from the Arudha Lagna is going to play out. It's going to be important, of course, but that to me right now, how we're kind of talking about this, is kind of jumping to the next step. So I think if you really just sit back and ask yourself, hey, what exactly is the Arudha Lagna doing, and how does that energy come off, is an important factor. And maybe the Arudha Lagna also follows the nakshatras, right? So when you actually calculate it, instead of it being only in, supposing, Scorpio, it could be in Anuradha, it could be in Jeshta, right? But that basically makes sense if you're looking at everything from a nakshatra standpoint, right? So when we're talking about, makes sense from a nakshatra standpoint, right? But anyways, in basic actuality, basic practicality, what you're gonna have if you're looking at, the Aries sign, you're gonna have somebody who is seen or perceived as being bold, energetic, perhaps even given the vibe off of a leader, right? A real leader. Now, for example, supposing if you have some sort of group assignment at school or at work, right? Some people may not take that initial step, or they might not have that sort of it's kind of like, when you have that group and then one guy is just assumed to sort of be the leader of the group. This is the kind of dynamic that this creates, where you just kind of give off the energy that you can just lead something, right? You can lead whatever the project is, whatever is going on. You have the ability to, get things done, get people organized, and kind of push things forward, right? Especially if the other people are more, supposing, avoidant, or, they might not be as in tuned as you would be. The vibe that you would give off kind of makes people feel a little bit more, I guess, safe with you. And to say that, hey, if we leave the leadership part, like, we all, of course, all of us are going to do our part in the assignment, but if we allow this guy to be the leader of it, it'll just get done. It'll be a good way, right? We feel comfortable, we feel safe in their leadership, right? You'll also find somebody who seems to be, quite energetic, or maybe even a sports person, and really having a, maybe even like a masculine sort of energy about them, because this is the first primary house of Mars, right? So we're not going to forget that the original energy is going to be quite strong here. Now, if there's different planets there on top of that, Aries, Arudha Lagna is going to make a big difference, because if, supposing, Sun is there or Mars is there, you're going to have a person of real authority. And as soon as you see them, you're going to be like, this guy right here is the leader, right? Like, it's like in the modern old day times, like if you were looking to crown a king of some place, this is the type of person that we want as the leader, because they very properly can hold that position in them. Whereas if you have a more softer planet, supposing like, the moon or Venus, it's more like, it's less of like direct leadership, and like, this person can be, we want him, like, you just have that vibe about you, but this is more of a subtle way, and it's more of like, maybe more of a, in the Venus case, more of an attractive way, where a person might be very slim and very, like, tight toned body, and having the having more, being more of like, maybe like a model type, but just being a very, slim, attractive type of position or individual. Whereas for the moon, you would have somebody who's much more like emotionally aggressive, or like, it's more of an emotional touch that you would receive in that case then, right? And really, that emotional nature can be seen through other people. They're gonna be like, even before seeing you, they can kind of, how some people just kind of are there, and you see them, and they're just like, right? Like, supposing you're telling them something, they'll be like, okay, 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 and you'll start seeing like the gears spinning in their head, and they're starting to form an opinion, right? Which is going to be a pretty strong opinion, right? But it won't be more of like, let's say, like a leadership opinion. It'll just be a strong opinion in general, right? And it might be more of like a helpful nature, instead of a more of like having a particular objective, just energy for the sake of energy, instead of it being in particular going towards a certain way, right? So if, supposing, if we look at it from a nakshatra standpoint going forward, then we have the, right, so that's the type of energy that you're going to find with these individuals, right? And in my opinion, if this plays out how it should, you would find like the people who are like army generals and leaders, right? And if their chart manifests with that energy, you'll see somebody who can be like a true pioneer in their field. Whereas if you have more of a, supposing a softer original Lagna, right, OG Lagna, it's gonna be much more of a, I guess it'll be more of like somebody who's calm but has that outer layer of being like a a headstrong and tough person. Even though if you get to know them, you'll realize that they have a softer side to them, right? Like, for example, if the person has the Cancer ascendant Lagna, they by nature will be a more softer, emotional, and more caring type of person for the most part. For the most part, being right. And then if you have the Aries there, you might think that this person is more of a fighter, right? Of a fighter who's ready to, get on somebody, defend themselves and all of that. And the thing about Cancer is people might think that, hey, this person is going to be pretty soft and caring and nurturing, right? But we forget that Cancer itself is a sign of the crab, and the crab is a very defensive creature, right? And even the nakshatras in there are very defensive when it comes to actually territorially managing something. So, having that outer expression of the Mars and Aries combined with that sort of softer inner nature, but still being defensive and safeguarding of things, creates quite a dynamic. Creates quite a dynamic, right? Where it just depends what's the trigger point, right? If you manage somehow to hit their emotions or their family or whatever, you're gonna notice that these people are not gonna settle for it lightly. They're gonna want to retaliate with more force, right? But at the same time, it's like if you get to know, if they're not in a defensive state at all, you're gonna say, wow, these guys are just, I kind of maybe thought of them as being more upfront than they actually are, and they're more of a nicer, calm, down to earth type of person, right? Now, if in comparison, if you have supposing a Capricorn ascendant, that Capricorn ascendant is going to be much more calm, practical, and looking at it like this is a person who you would say is more mature and more like less likely to have more instability. But that Aries nature there kind of makes it seem like they are more irrational and unstable and things like that. But they aren't really at their core. They have more of a more solid base, and if you got to know them, that's what you would see, right? And on the other hand, if they use this effectively, if someone who has that Aries, Arudha Lagna, and that Capricorn ascendant uses it effectively, they could be insanely good at leading corporations or getting, like CEO leadership status and things of that nature, because their inherent energy is to be working hard, is to be getting status, is to be doing all that. And then they get that Aries boost and radiance that people can have, and then they really become a strong force that people might even be intimidated from, or they could be given much respect to them and saying like, wow, this guy is somebody who is not to be trifled with, or they are somebody who can be listened to. They could be thought leaders, even they could be these type of people in their business or corporation, right? But once again, these are very general sort of outlines on how those two energies work, and this could end up in so many different ways. And through learning astrology, that is exactly how it works. It's like a puzzle where you could have if you have one piece that's, like is more like a white area and then there's clouds, but then you supposing have some other colored pieces in there and just like a random object flying in the sky for a puzzle, you're gonna say, wow, this is a different picture than if you saw someone else's picture. So really, astrology is like that. And for me personally, it took me a while to really understand that, because you're constantly going to be, oh, my Venus is in this house, is in this sign. How is that impacting it? And then you read one line or sentence from somewhere online and you think that that's, for some reason, you start thinking like that is a lot bigger than it actually is, because you need to look at the whole chart, right? And then, as we're talking about the Arudha here, you're going to have to be talking about the chart. You're going to have to be talking about what comes, like the divisional charts, right? And you have dashas going on, you have conjunctions, you have so much going on. And that's why astrology really is so amazing, because no two people in the world are made the same, and we all have our things that we are striving for and that we'll be able to achieve, right? And I wholeheartedly do believe this, right? The notion that astrology is sort of a fixed state and whatever results you get, you're going to get, in my personal opinion, is right to a certain degree, right? But I feel like the actions that you take today are going to be making your future karma for your next lives. So why would it not be applicable today, right? The things that we do today is going to change the things that we get tomorrow, right? So that's kind of just what my intro video is to this. And I hope that people found this a little bit some insights here, and feel free to follow the channel for further videos that I'll be dropping, right? I might stay on this topic for a little bit with the Arudha Lagna, or in between we might switch it up and talk about something else. But I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good night. Thank you.